Sandra bowing in.
You're muted, Sandra.
Sometimes it's best. I just want to say thank you so much. Your talk was incredibly comprehensive, but at the same time, it was packaged well. So even someone like me can understand it and see how it's applicable. But one comment I wanted to make was while we talk about right speech and we consider speech as the audible sounds that come out of our mouths, we also need to consider what we don't say, which is when we hold something back that we're thinking or whatever, and it may be skillful to do so, but our bodies emit speech without any sound. And, you know, there's that saying, and I can't remember who said it, but they will remember, or they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember the way you made them feel. And I'm constantly reminded by my spouse that it's not what you said, it was the way you said it. And I forget a lot that the body language is probably more important than what I'm actually saying. So trying to posture myself in a listening mode, you know, as the Buddha said, growing our ears and paying attention to the other before we think about what we're going to offer to any kind of communication. But yeah, what you say is important and how you deliver that audible message, but how you deliver it with your whole body is important. And sometimes just the presence with someone, when you know that they're suffering, it's not really that important as to what the source is or why they're suffering, as it is to just be there with them. And one last comment, it's been around forever, probably everyone's seen it, but there's a little cartoon by Brene Brown that is just showing the difference between sympathy and empathy. And it's what I think about a lot when I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to help this person by XYZ. And I think about that little cartoon. I'm like, yeah, I'm up at the top. I'm not in the hole with the person that's suffering. But anyway, I just want to thank you. It was a very timely and relevant topic. Sandra bowing out.
Happily, I'm bowing in. Well, every time you talk about right speech, Elena, I think, oh, good, she's talking to me again, because that too is a you know, it's in my face all the time. And Sandra, when you talk about the body language and the way you say things, I mean, that is my issue right now. That's one reason I do a lot better in emails and writing, because nobody can see me. In my life, I often, you know, harsh, as you were saying, Elena, harsh speech. And, you know, overall, I have good intentions, but you know what? You know, that arrogance comes out, and impatience comes out. And I might say just the right words, but I am an expert at big sighs and rolling my eyes, for one thing. And you know, that it's just not working in that way. And I'm much better everywhere else except at home, which is kind of common, I think. But nevertheless, so that's, I do thank you so much for your talk. And I thank you for your comments, Sandra, because all of that really applies to me. And I love that it was brought to my attention in such a beautiful way. So I'm recommitted to right speech. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just want to jump in again because Kathy reminded me of, Pat Bland reminded me of something. In court, in trial, the way council table was always set up. You faced your opponent at their table. So I would sit at the first chair and my client would be in the second chair, and the witness stand is off to one of the sides. So I have to turn my chair to face the witness whenever there's testimony being given. And I would always, woodshed my client before approaching the courtroom to say, look, your demeanor is super important. Somebody may be lying on the stand. Here's a pad. You can say whatever you want to in writing on this pad, but do not let your thoughts and your feelings, be obvious in the courtroom. And countless times, because I've got my back to my client, the court would recess and call counsel back at chambers. And it would be, hey, Kagan, do you realize what your client's doing behind you? And, he's flipping off the other side. He's, and I had no idea because I couldn't see him. But all of those things that, especially when there's an emotional attachment to whatever your communication is about. Yeah, it can be deadly. Sorry bowing out.
Dave bowing and Sandra, I appreciate what you were just kind of guiding us through about the elements of the communication that aren't really the words, aren't really the spoken piece. And Elena, your talk, fabulous, and as Sandra said, very comprehensive and but not dragged out too long. It was perfect amount of time, timeliness and so forth. But I'm thinking about the truthfulness, the gentleness that you spoke of, Elena, the beneficialness that may or may not be present in what we want to say, approaching the communication from that mind of loving kindness. And I'm reviewing in my head some of the things that I really try to work with myself, because a lot of what I do is working with people, and a core part of kind of how I approach that comes from listening. But of course, there has to be it's an active listening, it's a present listening, and it's a lot of work sometimes. That awareness piece. You don't just do the awareness and then all of a sudden all the things are fixed. Kathy Faplan, actually, I really appreciated how you named off some of the things that you're aware of, right? You're aware of things like eye rolls and things like that. When we're aware of that, that's huge, because it gives us that opportunity to work with a couple of things. One could be our own self-judgment that shows up when we realize we did that thing again that we trying not to do, but we did that thing again, and now I'm beating up on myself for that. Or, and it also gives us the opportunity to try to practice something different. Something I learned a long time ago was, especially like leading a group or whatever, don't point at people. Don't point at the person that's talking. Maybe have an open hand towards them, like inviting them to speak or something like that. Subtle little things with our body language can be really important. The openness of our physical posture can be so important. And important to really pay attention to and really cultivate more openness of physical posture, cultivate more gentleness of voice. That was one of the things that Elena touched on. I think the mind of loving kindness, Elena, that you spoke to, that's an important piece for me too, where one of the first things I try to do, if I'm really trying to be intentional about being present with somebody, especially if it's somebody dealing with some challenging stuff, or somebody maybe from a life background that I don't immediately relate to or connect with, I try to come back to that sense of complete mutuality with the other person, kind of equality and sense of honoring. The way I think of it is honoring everybody's basic grace of just being alive, and come back to that place that's kind of like that mind of love and kindness, that mind of equality, mutuality, things like that. And as I say the word mutuality, I'm also going back to Sandra, what you said about the Brene Brown cartoon and the am I reaching down into the hole to help them, or am I in that space with them? And that's that mutuality, is, you know, being in that space with them. But even that, you know, definitely requires us to put a lot of effort into our own practice, because if we jump in that hole with somebody, but we're not, you know, we're not okay ourselves, we're not stable or kind of able to be in our own space, we can't share that with them, and we may just get in that messy place with them and make things worse. So anyway, whole lot of things that can come out of all this whole topic. Dave Bowing out. Thank you.
John Yan. I think having English as a second language certainly forced me to learn deep listening when I first come to the state. When listening to the people, I usually have a habit to repeat, to say, if I understand you right, this is what you said, kind of confirming my understanding. So I think that helps. In terms of body language and other stuff, I think in today's society, it covers all sorts of communications, whether texting, tweeting, all that fell into the realm of right speech. Body language, I don't think I have much problem, because my daughter said I'm quite a Vulcan. I normally won't show much emotion, but that also a drawback, you know, when you try to understand, listening to people and try to show your compassion, if your face is like flat, not emotional, so it doesn't show that very well. In terms of delivering the truth, sometimes the truth hurts, but we need to learn to do skillful means to deliver the truth. That reminds me of a story, I don't know where I read from, but there's a lady, she went off on vacation and she handed to her neighbor to, you know, watch out for her kid. And when she came back from vacation, he said, "Where's my kid?" The neighbor says that, "Oh, she fell off the roof and died." And she, oh, it's so hurt. He said, the next time, you know, you have to say something like, "Oh, he climbed up the tree. Oh, he's playing on the roof." And then he fell off the roof. People rushed her to the vet and to try to save him, but you know, he couldn't deliver that slowly, so that she kind of takes step to step and finally accept the truth. So that's sort of a skillful mean, you know, when they try to deliver the truth. But I think all of us could make mistakes. That is something you have to practice day by day to learn and improve over the time. Jump on out.
Teo bowing in. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Elena, for the Dharma talk. So there's a couple of points that Elena touched on. that really resonated with me. And the main one was towards the end when you talked about skill building. And ultimately, for me, that's the crux of the practice, is skill building. And I got to get this coming out of the way because I'm losing my train of thought. But Sandra, I think it was either Maya Angelou or could have been Oprah Winfrey, actually, with that quote. They don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel, and that's really important. So the skill building part, and this is the crux again of the practice, the skill, and we do that on a daily basis by sitting on our cushion, speaking mindfully. Even right thinking, right? Right thinking, which we think, oh, those thoughts stay in my head so they don't hurt anyone. And I recently heard a quote, a Thich Nhat Hanh quote, that thinking is like a cloud, it's like a rain cloud that eventually drops the water. So even in our thinking, is going to manifest in some sort of rain. It's going to disperse out there in some way. And so what are we thinking, and what are we raining? What's the content of those thoughts? Are we raining down acid rain, or are we raining down pure, pristine, clear water? The skill building, getting back to the skill building, and I think that's again in all of it. And when it comes to right speech, I think one of the things that I really love about Zen is it teaches us how to be mindful, be aware, as you were talking about, as you were saying, Elena, having this awareness, and being in the present moment, and being able to swim through that, find a way skillfully, right, in the development of these skills. It's like becoming a good improvisational actor. Think on the spot, and the best way to do that is by doing it, right? And how do we build these skills? Is by doing it, by being engaged, and also knowing that each situation will call for a totally unique response. So there is no, there are guidelines, yes, right? You want to be kind, loving, and compassionate. Of course, there's guidelines, but there's no cookie cutter response to anything or anyone's suffering. I think maybe it was Dave who made this comment, that sometimes, you're absolutely right. I think we have to, sometimes folks don't want us to fix their problems. They just want to be heard. They just want to be listened to. And that's a huge relief. Because please don't make me fix your problem. It's a huge relief, I think. And as Dharma teachers and lay priests, we could get hooked by trying to fix someone else's problems, and that's actually being unskilled. However, we can be present for their suffering, and be in that hole with them. I haven't seen a Brene Brown. I am a Brene Brown fan, but I haven't seen the cartoon. So it reminds me also of the story of, this is all having to do with right speech, right? Part of the Eightfold Path, which is directly connected to right thinking and right action. Like anything else, the Eightfold Path is, they are all 8 points, right? It reminds me of the story of, a man is standing on a corner and sees a guy come around the corner. He's running, and then he's all rattled and he's scared, and then he keeps running and hides under a car. And then a few seconds later, another guy comes around with a gun in his hand. And he asks the other guy, did you see a guy come through here? And being, we have taken the 5 precepts that say we're going to do right speech and we're not going to lie. What do we say? Oh, I've taken a vow not to lie. So yes, I did see him. He's hiding under the car. No. Zen says, be skillful, think, use what is the response in that very moment. And then the right speech becomes a lie. And that's the paradox of Zen. It's what eases. It doesn't matter how it comes from, where it comes from, or how it manifests. It is easy. It is the objective. The right action is to ease the suffering of others, our own and the suffering of others. And the only way we can get good at it, we won't be, and there's no way, absolutely no way that we're going to be perfect at it. There's absolutely no way we're going to get it right every single time. But like Thich Nhat Hanh says, if you're lost in the woods, it's not and you need the North Star to get out of the woods. You follow the North Star. The objective is not to get to the North Star, but the objective is to get out of the woods. It's like the imagery that's used in not only in Buddhism, but in many religions, Guanyin, also known as Avalokitesvara. No one's trying to be Guanyin, but we are definitely trying to walk in that path, the Bodhisattva compassion. We are definitely headed in that direction relentlessly, and we'll stumble and we'll fall and we'll say the wrong things and go, oh gosh, but at least when we said the wrong thing, we're aware of it and we recognize it, and then we know that you said the wrong thing. You said the wrong thing because you're on the path of a Bodhisattva. That's how you recognize it in the first place. And then you get better at it, and you get better, and it's skillful, and it's skillful, it's skillful. LeBron James does not make every single basket. And we will falter in our practice, will falter in our way of thinking and our way of speech. But we are working hard, diligently, and skillfully in the path of the Bodhisattva. Thank you.
Rudy bowing in. Pardon my lack of video. My Wi-Fi is not the best, and it works the best when I'm just on audio. Just want to share a couple of things that are coming to mind hearing all of you say so many great things. As some of you know, I'm a dancer and a performer, and I've been teaching here at Yale a lot of the actors, and have recently in trying to get actors who think of performance or like approach a play through through a mind state, and trying to like break down the psychology of the characters that they're trying to embody. Funny and ironically enough, trying to embody something through the psychology, right? Like through the mind. And so trying to like get them into their body, I've realized, or I've come to like a realization, just something I want to share, because now I'm like making these connections, not only from dance to acting, but into Buddhism, is that I tell them often that the words are coming from the body, that the text is in the body, and the text has to be excavated and explored through the body, right? Language was created because of wants, needs, I love you, danger, I need water, food, right? That's why language was created, so that we can like relay those things to other people. And so, so I try to get them to feel first what it is that they're feeling before they actually say it, right? And so it's just making me like think about being mindful, being present. What is it that you're feeling before you go to speak, when you're listening to somebody, or when you're like, feeling anger or feeling anxious or feeling upset, and being conscious of those emotions, and those symptoms, before you go to talk. And the second thing I want to share is like I always come back to there. I've heard two versions of this, and one of them is that it's 70%. And recently I've heard that it's like 93%, that all communication is actually nonverbal, or all communication is 70%. Some people say 93% nonverbal, and then the rest is actually verbal. And so again, thinking about that, the body is the source, the body as source for language, is a helpful reminder for me for when thinking about right speech. Like where is my body? How am I feeling in my body? Before I choose to say certain things. And what's funny, and I've actually I'll catch myself saying something that I'm like, why am I saying this right now? and I have to like check in and like, oh, I can actually at the moment feel that, oh, I'm irritated, and this is and I'm catching the this is the outcome of the irritation, the anxiety, or the lack of sleep, or hunger, or something that's in that's happening like body wise, as opposed to any external thing, but yeah, just some thoughts that I'm making like some connections here, with thinking as a dancer, thinking as an actor, and as a Buddhist, and how all these things coincide with each other.
Can I just shout?
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you, Rudy. And can I just put Rudy on blast for a second? Today's his birthday.
Happy birthday, Rudy. Yay,
Happy
everybody.
continuation day, Rudy.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, everyone. So nice to see everyone. It's so weird to see everyone now on Zoom after we just were like in each other's faces like a couple days ago.
Rudy, this is Dave bowing in real quick. Happy birthday. And
Thank
I
you,
remember
Dave.
while we were at the retreat, we were able to figure out that there were a lot of birthdays happening in May for people in the DTO, which is pretty cool. Rudy, I love how you just talked about that, and talked about the body being the source for language. I love and really deeply appreciate and relate to that. And actually the way you spoke of it from your own history as a dancer, as somebody who really embodies communication, I think you really kind of helped me to come back to a lot of what I do, in the sense of trying to come back to that physical sense of where I'm at in my body and what's going on. There are some things that I do particularly when I'm being very intentional about listening and speaking. I do come back to like my body touching against the floor if I'm standing, or against a chair if I'm sitting. I do come back to my breath. How's my breath going right now? I do come back and kind of scan through the core of my body in particular, because the heart center and belly area are areas where I can really tune into what's going on, like emotionally, the feeling stuff that's going on there. And then I really try to come back to voice tone and cadence, so that and this goes back to those nonverbal things that you were talking about, right, Rudy? Whether it's 70%, 90%, whatever it is, but volume, voice tone, voice cadence, all those things are extremely important. What are we doing with our hands? Stuff like that is important. And there's so much that happens at that pre-verbal level, that when we're more tuned into that, I think maybe sometimes we can express ourselves more. I don't necessarily want to say more clearly, but maybe more authentically. And I know it feels more embodied. So deep gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All your comments are so insightful and so full of wisdom. And I think, what I can see like a thread going through all of them is culture. How culture plays an important, well, actually a fundamental role in the way we express ourselves and the way we communicate with the world. And I think for us as lay priests and Dharma teachers, and just as human beings in this world, in this multicultural multiverse that we live in, it is important to recognize that people will express themselves and will manage their situations and their lives in general based on their own cultural background, and respecting that and accepting that and not taking that as a sign of deficiency is very, very important. Should be one of our guiding principles, to respect all cultures, like it says it in our manual for the the Dharma teacher order. And also recognize that our own cultures, whatever we were born with, whatever we have adopted as we have come all this way, also affect the way we communicate with the world, and the way we interpret the world, and the way we give feedback to that world. So those are important. I think you have all spoken of that, because body language is fundamental. It's very, very important to understand that. But we must also understand that body language in different cultures is different as well. And so for me, I think the unchanging, well, I don't want to say unchanging, but sort of fixed post that I always come back to, that I aim or aspire to always come back to, is my own skillfulness, like Theo was saying, my own skillfulness or lack of skillfulness in the compassion, in the ability to be a loving, kind person, regardless of who is around me or who's not around me. So we cannot control what goes around us, what happens around us, or the people around us, but we can educate, build skillfulness, and control our own person, our own minds. But we cannot control our minds. We can just be aware of it. But being aware of it is, you know, part of exerting that control of our actions and our communications. So, so thank you for all those wonderful comments. I really appreciate your contributions. Is anyone that hasn't said anything would like to? It's your moment now.
Janet bowing in. I just wanted to say, like Kathy said, she does better on email. You can also do better on just the telephone without seeing the person or anything, because I had an experience yesterday with my godchild who lives in Indiana, and she's taking care of her mother for years who has Parkinson's disease. And so we were talking, and she mentioned that she never leaves her mother alone for even 10 minutes. Somebody has to be there to be by the mother's side. So she has a caretaker come in, or somebody has to be there all the time. So I said to her, Sandra, it wasn't like that not too long ago. How come you've gotten to this point where mom has to be watched all the time? And she says, well, Aunt Janet, this has been going on for months, because if I leave mom alone and she decides to pick up something from the floor, she'll be on the floor and then she'll break something and I can't pick her up and we have to call 911. And it's just better to have someone there all the time. So my heart was breaking for Sandra, for her mother, for offering suggestions on how to fix this, which I had no qualifications to do that, no right to do it. I haven't been there. I haven't seen the situation. And so I was just like feeling, I was suffering listening to her on the situation that she was experiencing with her mother for a long time. And so I just decided to say, oh, I see, Sandra, I understand. And I just couldn't do anything. And it was like a very tender moment for me to talk to my godchild about this. And I really still feel very teary about it right now. But I'm so glad I could express that to you in this sharing, and about this communication that was what it was without any fixing or anything. So thank you for being here today and listening to me. Janet bowing out.
Craig bowing in. I just had a real fast comment. This is a wonderful morning. Thank you, Elena, for leading us. Your talk was great, and it brought everything together. I mean, there's such an interpenetration between everything we look at, but speech is kind of almost like the solidification between right thought and right aspiration. It comes out and we make it real or make it more permanent through speech. There's just tons of great things that I would, given more time, would like to respond to. But I just want to end with a quote that I think is appropriate for this talk, or parts of this talk. I won't be able to pronounce the name, but I came across this. I was reading in the Blue Cliff Record, and Zhaodou Shongjian, born 980 in eastern China, who was most well known for his collection of 100 koans, which later became the foundation for the collection, the Blue Cliff Record. An anecdote about his last words. Near his death, his pupils asked him if there's anything that he wanted to say. He simply replied, "The only regret of my life was speaking too much." So, with that said, I'll stop. Craig bowing out.
Anyone would like to say something else before we conclude our day?
Respected Thai dear Sangha, if I may. Thank you, Elena.
Of course.
Thank you. Elena, you remind me of that when the Buddha was giving the Dharma talk and just holding the flower and saying nothing. I feel like you could just sit there and say nothing and I would glean the cosmos from you. So I thank you for your Dharma talk today. And yes, skillfulness is so broad. Oh my gosh, I guess that's why Avalokita has 1,000 arms with 1,000 eyes, because what does that mean sometimes? From compassion to fierce compassion, it's very broad. And yeah, I guess our prayer and our quest as Bodhisattva wannabes is to be skillful at the right moment. And all I kept thinking about was when you were speaking was continuation, because speech is one of the energies of our continuation, what we think and what we say and what we do. And our speech, the breath, it just teaches me the breath, because we have that pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. And I think that's what I try to practice with my speech. Just take that pause, And with Sister Annabelle Laity, she was one of the big Dharma doors, entrances for me, because when the bell was invited for many generations, for many decades, as I mentioned, she would just come back to waiting mode, and then she realized, oh, I can come back to really coming back to my breath. And then it's also the same with our step, just instead of thinking about the next step, coming back to this step. And it's the same with my listening. Am I practicing pseudo listening skills, or can I come back just one step more and really penetrate the energy of that person to understand that person? So that was a big lesson for me. And it allowed it to bubble up because of your Dharma talk today. Thank you. I'll stop for now because we're getting close. Conrad bowing out.
Brandon bowing in real quick. I just want to state, to me, this is one of the hardest precepts to follow. And that's coming from someone who, has a background in drug and alcohol addiction, To me, all the precepts are pretty self-explanatory, very easy. First one, don't kill, don't go to war, practice vegetarianism. The second one, keep your hands to yourself, and so on. But the fourth precept, it's something that takes a lot of volition and mindfulness. And I've been noticing lately that I've been really wearing my agitation and anxiety, emotions, even thoughts on my face. So when y'all kind of brought that up, I was thinking about that. And in the mindfulness game or path, I noticed that when I start to realize, oh, I'm doing some behavior that's unskillful, such as making facial expressions when you probably shouldn't. Generally, as the practice goes on, I'll start to notice the root causes before they come up, as like anger. I'm starting to notice the root cause to the anger and all that. And so hopefully I can kind of see these root causes in my mind, these mental formations that are leading me, to say something I shouldn't, or, being able to think before I speak, or, making a face of like distaste or something. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, everyone else, for this talk. It's what I needed today. So thank you.
Maybe we need to take a deep breath and just be with the breath.